Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Back at it. Subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. We appreciate it.
Podcast below in the description as well.
Also, wineaccess.com/ham. 20% off for you on your first order.
20% off right now, wineaccess.com. Send a gift, /ham. Send a gift, 20% off. 1 bottle, 2 bottle, 5 bottles, nice bottles, cheap bottles, you name it, they got it all.
Satisfaction guarantee. You don't like it, which you will, they replace. Chris Sims has tweeted, John, looking at the Niners, looks like the Niners are going to go all in on the Lamar Jackson offense for Trey Lance. Aaron Banks, this was Saturday night after they drafted Banks, in the mold of a big, overpowering O-line. Then Sims, I think Shanahan could develop a Lamar-ish offense for Trey Lance, but a couple big differences. Lance isn't the same runner as Lamar. No one is. And still not sure of how good a runner Lance is. Going to be playing against much faster dudes in the NFL than he was at North Dakota State. As we've discussed, he did have a GPS run of over 21 miles an hour, which would have been the 12th fastest run in the NFL last year and the fastest among quarterbacks. But what do you think of that?
Well, neither guy, remember, Lamar refused to run a 40 because he didn't want to be pigeonholed as a wide receiver. I think it's fair to say if Lamar had ran a 40, 4.35, I mean, it would have been incredibly fast. Even if he ran 4.40, he's arguably the fastest guy in the NFL. Like maybe 2 or 3 elite, Tyreek Hills, Deshaun Jackson's. Like you could argue he's that speed. Doing a little digging last night, I think I've mentioned it on other videos that people in the league think Trey Lance is like in the 4.55 range, which 4.55 and 4.35, is 0.2 of a second. But in football terms, that's a big speed difference. But that's fast for a quarterback. We talked last night. Kaepernick ran a 4.53 coming out of Nevada. But you and I were whack guys. We had, I was with Fresno State. You were covering the team. We saw him live. His play speed, just based on watching some of Trey Lance on YouTube, was faster. Kaepernick was a faster straight line player. So I do agree with Chris that Trey Lance is, one, he's not Lamar Jackson, and 2, he's not like an elite speed home run hitter, but he is an athletic quarterback. If you wanted to put him in the mold of, if you watch the Bills play those first couple years before Josh, I think this year became just like, damn, is he just a gunslinger? They did a lot of running and movement stuff with him, and he ran in touchdowns. I mean, I played him like DFS, daily fantasy sometimes, and he'd be good for like a rushing touchdown and throw for a couple as well. That's where I think Trey Lance can do. But unlike Josh Allen, I do think you could implement parts of the Ravens scheme. Like your offense isn't going to look completely like that. The Ravens don't want to look completely like that. They just had to do that.
Right.
The great part about Kyle, his offense is him. But he's shown before RG3. I think he can mesh the two together. That my opinion would be, once he starts playing, whether that's week 1, whether that's week 5, whether that's next year, they have elements that look Lamar Jackson-y. Him in the pistol with a guy right behind him. Some of those weird formations that kind of look like the wing T with their run, with Mozart, with Trey Sermon, Juszczyk, right? Kittle. They have versatile pieces that you could just like do a diamond formation. Like they have a lot of scheme versatility with their offensive weapons, right? Starting with the quarterback.
Yeah, but I think ultimately Trey Lance, from a passing standpoint, right, you don't want to be that forever, right? I think part of, like, when I read Chris Sims say that, part of what I think is, okay, that's part of what your year 1 offense or year 2 offense looks like. You do want some evolution in it year 3, year 4, year 5. Like, when Kyle Shanahan talks about Lamar Jackson's legs, remember he also talks about the upper body, the brain of Drew Brees, all that kind of stuff. Like, I think what they're banking on here is that they have a complete quarterback. He doesn't need to run like Lamar Jackson, right? Nobody else does. Patrick Mahomes doesn't. Josh Allen doesn't. That's okay. Now, I don't, I probably should never bring up Mahomes because it's just, we're talking about the best of the best right now, the ideal. But I think, like, when I read Chris Sims say that, like, what I think is what we've been talking about for a while with a training wheels year 1 offense. Like, if this guy plays year 1, how do you do the things, right? There are things in Kyle Shanahan's offense that we saw him do at North Dakota State. So how do you do the things that he already has done and also do some of the things that takes a little bit of heat off of him in his first year in the NFL? Like, I don't, we keep talking, like, are the Ravens going to go to the AFC Championship game?
I mean, they finally won a playoff game this year.
So, that's not just Lamar.
But
They keep going
to me,
to the playoffs. Yeah.
to me, the difference though is I think they're going to implement this in the running game. I think they're going to have a lot of normal Kyle Shanahan pass game plays, which the Ravens, it feels everything is predicated off just that kind of crazy collegiate run scheme, right? And I think if you hearken back to Greg Roman with Kaepernick, they just kind of felt stuck. And then they tried to just go 0 to 60. The great part is with Kyle, his offense is his offense. You can just implement. I think they have new pitches, is my opinion. I don't ever think that we'll ever compare the two offenses. I just think they'll add some of those plays, which to me is healthy, right? Like Mahomes, for example, you would never add Lamar Jackson plays. You don't need to. And that's not, he's not a runner quite like that, even though, he's had runs in his career, but they can't rip. His greatest attribute is his arm, which ideally is going to be Trey Lance's. I just think you can ease him into it, and by implementing some of these plays that are just, they're just going to be successful, right? You have a good run scheme. You have a powerful offensive line. And I think it makes it easier for the quarterback if he's a good passer. The one thing you do notice when you watch Baltimore, guys get open once the play action stuff starts hitting. He just misses some throws here and there that if he hit them, he would be an unstoppable force, right?
And he hits enough of them, right?
He hits enough of them for them to win 10, 12, 13 games every year.
He doesn't throw interceptions.
No, I have come around on Lamar because he is clearly, we nitpick him playoff-wise, but his talent – the Niners would just pay you can just get us 11, 12 wins. We'll try to figure it out from there. I think the Ravens, you can poke holes in them, but they're in a pretty good spot, right? He's a major part of why they win every year, right? And then you got to figure out, because they just have to expand the passing game. But this goes back to Lance as a thrower. He is viewed much more accurately coming out of college. The reason Lamar Jackson was at 32 and not 5 was because people viewed him as an inaccurate passer. If people viewed wow, you can move like that and you're accurate, do you agree that Lamar's going in the top 10 of the draft?
Yeah,
his knock was inaccuracy.
Absolutely.
And he has been dramatically more accurate in the pros than anyone envisioned. Same with Josh Allen. Where Trey Lance is already starting from a pretty good starting point, you're just kind of is this really going to translate? You just don't quite know. There's no guarantee that Trey Lance, his first year starting, is as accurate as Lamar Jackson's been, right?
No. There are questions about his consistency with his accuracy, but I don't think you draft him at number 3 without primarily wanting him to do the things that Kyle Shanahan believes in. But now, Kyle said after they drafted him, yes, there are some other things that I'm excited to do with him, basically, right? But you primarily draft him at number 3 because you think he's going to be the best quarterback thrower available to you. I think we know that's how Kyle thinks first and foremost. I think he's going to be the best passer available, and his ceiling is high enough with this other stuff. But I think when we think about Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously we identify the injuries, but there are the throws in Jimmy Garoppolo's career that he's hit have been the big moments, and the throws that he's missed have been the biggest moments. Those have been the biggest moment in Patrick Mahomes' career is the throw he hit in the Super Bowl. Right,
I think
these are the defining moments.
The reason you take any quarterback high is as a thrower. Ultimately, for Lamar to sustain this for a decade, he's going to have to win with his arm, right? That's a fact. We've seen that in these big games, in the regular season too. When they play the Chiefs, right? He just can't make enough. You draft a guy, or once Lamar gets paid or Trey Lance starts playing, to beat the best players. You go, yeah, we're going to be able to beat the average, below average teams. We think this guy's a star. He can beat the best teams.
Right.
And to beat the best teams, you got to win with your arm.
Lamar.
But I don't think it's weird or crazy or wrong to add a new pitch to the repertoire, right? Because he can, right? Jimmy can't. But if you have this guy, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, but no doubt. I just think you also think you draft him thinking he can be a better quarterback, pocket passer than Jimmy Garoppolo, right? That he can be a better passer than Jimmy and a better quarterback just from that aspect than Garoppolo. And if you add this other stuff, great. Lamar's first year Lamar's first year in the league, he ran the ball 147 times. His first year as a starter for the entire season, 15 games, he ran the ball 176 times. I guess we could look at Robert Griffin III's rookie year. He ran the ball 120 times. Like, that's a lot of rushes, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, he was very effective throwing the ball. He was 66% passer that year. He was 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So he was a really good passer. Is Trey Lance going to run the ball 120 times this year?
Well, would the Niners take right now Robert Griffin if Trey Lance started week 1, that his stat line?
Hell yeah, they would.
25. How many rushing touchdowns did RG3 have?
I think 7
so
rushing touchdowns. Hold on, let me tell you. 7 rushing touchdowns, 20 passing touchdowns. 7 rushing touchdowns, 20 passing touchdowns, 5 picks. Now, you want him running 7, 8 times a game? That wouldn't shock me if he runs it. I mean, it's a little high, but wouldn't stun me, especially for a rookie year. If he's at 7 or 8, I don't think and that number comes down over the course of the next couple of years.
You said that RG3 was 140 or 114?
RG3's rookie year, he ran the ball 120 times.
I'm gonna list you 3 straight years. Josh Allen, rushing attempts, 89 rookie year, 19, 109. This year, his best year by far, 102.
Rushing attempts.
Now, are some of those scrambles? Yeah. I don't think being around the 100 mark is that crazy for a guy if Trey Lance is a full-time starter this year. Now, it's a little skewed because we're going to add a game, but we can relatively get in the same ballpark, right?
Yeah.
I think it sounds like a lot. I just do. Josh Allen is a good example where ultimately the Niners would rather have Josh Allen than Lamar Jackson. But if they can kind of meet in the middle, especially early on, they'd be cool with that. Because Trey, like Chris Sims is alluding to, he's right, won't be able to have just back-to-back games of 150 yards rushing against the Rams in Seattle, right? That's not. But can he get you 60 to 80, most weeks? And then some weeks it's like, whoa, you're playing an elite defense. You may only rush for 20. Can you throw for 300, right?
Yeah. And also, based on his body type, right? Is he good at avoiding big hits? We don't know that.
Josh Allen, I mean, a huge element to his success. 8 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. 25 rushing touchdowns in his career.
That's pretty incredible.
And one thing I've noticed playing him in daily fantasy and watching him on Red Zone.
That's more than Lamar.
They do a lot of quarterback power cam stuff in the red zone. So to me, we can say, Lamar, wouldn't you go to some of Buffalo Bills' playbook and add some of those plays?
Lamar has 19 rushing touchdowns.
25 rushing touchdowns. Lamar has how many throwing touchdowns? Because the one thing Josh Allen does bring is he's
well, last year he blew up. I mean, Lamar has 68 in 3 years, but the last 2 years is 36 and 26. 2019 he threw 36 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, last year Allen threw 37. I mean, those two guys are stars. Like, that's what to me you want, kind of mold like Trey Lance, best case scenario. To me, I throw Mahomes. Mahomes is a different animal. It's a mixture of the two because I think he'd run more naturally. Like, they would have more running plays
than Josh
Allen.
But
he could have goal line runs like Josh Allen because he's not going to run around like Lamar, and kind of be a mold of the two. Now you'd be like, John, of course, but I mean that's kind of.
They drafted him third. That's how we talk.
Yeah,
these guys were first round picks not that long ago. These are the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah.
In their age range. I mean, they're the best quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, and the best quarterbacks.
Those two guys produce.
Man, God, that's the standard. Let's go.